The Simpsons is without a doubt one of our generation's greatest cartoons. It's not afraid to explore the reality of becoming an adult and teaching us things we didn't think we needed to know. Amidst the entertainment and craziness, it finds a way to inspire and change ourselves. From love and family to heartbreaking disappointment, The Simpsons has no shortage of any of this. This series actually predicts how messed up an entire generation would be. While rewatching the series, I found myself once again being taught about life. The show about a normal, messed up yellow family did more than just entertain. It taught us how to laugh at our mistakes, what it truly means to love unconditionally, and how to accept some harsh realities of life. This is The Simpsons, and how it shaped an entire generation. Parents are just people too. There is an episode that feels like real life. It feels like something we've lived as kids but never really understood. It plays like a documentary about broken families. Homer doesn't get his Christmas bonus, the family has no money for presents, and he has to work as a mall Santa just to scrap together something for his kids. Most TV dads would have some perfect plan to save Christmas, but Homer just waits and hopes for the best. When you watch Homer dealing with screaming kids all day in that Santa suit, you start to get it. The people who are supposed to provide for you are just as lost as you are. And for us kids watching, it was the first time we saw a dad who didn't have all the answers. Emotionally, he's just trying to keep his family happy, but he can't. Not with the resources he has, not with the job he's stuck in. This episode basically says our parents aren't superheroes. They're just people trying to figure out how to survive. And somehow that was more comforting than all perfect TV families combined. Because at least Homer was honest about being broke and confused. Love means sacrificing dreams. Well, in this episode, we find ourselves watching Homer's dreams get crushed in real time, as we don't really get how heavy it is until we're adults. Homer finally quits his job at the nuclear plant and starts working at a bowling alley where he's actually happy for once in his miserable life. But then Margie gets pregnant with Maggie and reality hits him like a truck. He has to go back to the plant to make enough money to support another kid. Eventually, he puts up photos of Maggie around his workstation with a sign that says, "Do it for her." After working at a job that slowly kills his soul every single day, this one hits differently when you're older. Well, doesn't it? You're looking at a guy who's had to give up everything he wanted just to keep his family fed. Just like millions of real dads do every day. Homer loves his family deeply. He works a job he hates, and he's trying to figure out how to be a good person in a world that punishes you for having kids. The bowling alley meant everything he wanted. The nuclear plant meant everything he had to do instead. And that sign, "Do it for her," meant the only reason any of it makes sense. Homer shows us that sacrifice doesn't feel noble when you're living it. It just feels like giving up. Life isn't fair and merit doesn't always win. We meet Frank Grimes, a guy who works incredibly hard, follows all the rules and still can't catch a break. Meanwhile, Homer stumbles through life somehow, manages to own a house, support a family, and not get fired despite being completely incompetent. This drives Grimes absolutely insane, and honestly, it should. That episode basically says life isn't fair. Some people bust their asses every single day and barely survive, while others seem to coast through everything without even trying. The Simpsons was brave enough to point out that merit doesn't always win. That sometimes the system is just broken and good people get screwed while lazy people get lucky. Homer's the problem in this episode, but nobody apologizes for him. They just show us that life doesn't make sense, that effort doesn't guarantee success, and that sometimes being angry about fairness is the only sane response. Grimes died at the end because of the unfairness of it all literally kills him. And nobody even remembers his name. It's a horror story about capitalism disguised as a cartoon. Sometimes your best isn't good enough. Everyone thinks Bart causes trouble because he doesn't care about school. But look closer and you'll see something different. He actually tries hard to pass this test. He studies, gets help, he does everything right, and he still fails. This episode doesn't end with him learning to try harder. It ends with him accepting that sometimes your best isn't good enough. So this kid who's clearly smart got crushed by a system that doesn't understand how he learns. Bart needed different teaching methods and different approaches, but instead he's got labeled as a problem child and written off. The school failed him, and the adults were too stubborn to admit it. Kids watching in the 90s had never seen this before, a show that hadn't blamed the kids for struggling. It blamed the adults who were supposed to help him. Most kids show who have wrapped this up with Bart suddenly becoming a good student. But The Simpsons said sometimes you can do everything right and still lose, and that's not your fault. Authority must be earned, not blindly obeyed. In this episode, Bart and Lisa get sent to a summer camp expecting fun and games, but instead they find themselves in what's basically a prison run by teenagers who don't care about their safety. The campuses are a scam, the food is terrible, and the activities are dangerous. Most kids shows would have had the adults step in to save the day, but in The Simpsons, the kids have to save themselves. When Bart finally leads a revolt against the counselors, they treat like it's a desperate act of survival. These kids realized that the adult who were supposed to protect them were either absent or actively harming them, so they fought back. This was huge for a generation of kids who were taught to always obey authority without question. Bart showed us that blind obedience can get you killed, that sometimes adults are wrong and when they are, resisting them becomes necessary. This episode told an entire generation that authority has to be earned, and being respected just because someone is older than you means nothing if they're hurting you. Having principles means standing alone. There was an episode where Lisa decides to stop eating meat after visiting a pet zoo, and it sounds simple enough, but what happens when you develop a conscience in a world that doesn't want you to have one? When Lisa makes this choice, nobody supports her. Her family thinks she's being difficult, her classmates don't understand, and she ends up feeling completely alone. They don't just make this easy for her at all. Her dad grills a pig right in front of her mom tries to sneak meat into her food, and her brother makes fun of her for caring about animals. Most kids' show would have resolved this with everyone learning to respect Lisa's choices. But The Simpsons, well, they sometimes say, doing what you think is right means being isolated and nobody cares. This episode basically says having principles costs you something. That standing up for what you believe in often means standing alone, and that sometimes the people who are supposed to support you will be the ones who fight you the hardest. Lisa showed us that being right doesn't make you popular, but you do it anyway. The truth about growing up. By the time you finish watching The Simpsons, it doesn't feel like the same show you started with. We came in expecting a funny cartoon about a dysfunctional family. We stayed for the most accurate portrayal of American life ever put on television. The world got more complicated, the problems got bigger, and we realized we were watching our own future unfold. Homer turned into every parent trying to hold their family together while everything fell apart around them. But Bart turned it into every kid who sees through lies adults tell them. Lisa turned into everything who cares too much in a world that punishes you for giving a damn. The Simpsons captured growing up and all that confusion that it comes with. It respected the anger and disappointment finding out that nobody has figured it out. Episodes like Mother Simpson and Homer's Phobia were truth bombs that asks, what does it mean to be an American? What does it mean to be a family? And what do you do when the answer's stuck? The crazy thing about The Simpsons is that it never lied to us. Other shows promised that everything would work, that adults were wise, that hard work pays off. But The Simpsons said sometimes Things don't work out. Sometimes adults are idiots, and sometimes you work hard your whole life and still end up broke and miserable. But you keep going anyway, because what else are you gonna do? For those of us who felt different, who saw through the bullshit, who learned to laugh when everything was falling apart, The Simpsons told us that the world is insane and we're not crazy for noticing it. It raised a generation that doesn't take authority seriously, that questions everything, and that finds humor in the darkest places, because sometimes laughing is all you got.